Hello. So basically, if you don't yet know, I'm transgender. I am in transition. I've been doing it since April of 2014, and it's currently September 6th of 2014. So it's a little over, I would say, about 4 months of transitioning. I have noticed changes in the facial kind of thing, and I've, of course, done laser surgery, so they like shock and shoot little things on your face that hurt like a motherfucker. But, there were a lot of questions that I had before I even knew what transgender was. And I think that the message or the way that people convey what it feels like to be trans wasn't clear enough for me. And it took until I started seeing transition timelines to really say that's it. That's what I need to do. Um, Basically, I'll give you guys a little recap of my life and kind of give you that thing of, well, maybe I am trans or maybe I'm not. Um, and I'm not asking you guys to tell me what I am. I know what I am. But basically, when I was younger, I would do things that were very non traditional of boys to do. I would play house with all the girls. Anytime there was some sort of role playing kind of games, I mean, we used our imaginations a lot when we were younger. I mean, I'm only 25, but when I was a kid, I mean, people weren't as die hard about video games, cell phones, and all that shit. That just wasn't the thing. We tend to play outside much more than kids do today. So I would always play the girl in a lot of things, but I always requested it. I always like, no, 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 I'm gonna be the girl. It's like one of those things where everyone's like, no, I can't be the girl. I don't want to do it. Blah blah blah. I'm like, I'll do it. Like I always volunteered. I used to put tennis balls in my shirt, which was pretty funny too. Um, but since I was younger, I always had this strong, strange attraction to the idea of being the opposite sex. It's something that I would think about all the time. I would think about it before I go to sleep. Every single night when preteens up until, I was a full-blown teenager, I would just fantasize about becoming a girl. I would think of all these sorts of scenarios where a freak accident in a doctor's office made me a girl, or it just seemed that I wanted it to happen so badly that I would just come up with all these very bizarre ways of it occurring. I would pray to God almost every night to be a girl. I never understood why. Never understood why I wanted to be one so badly. The littlest things in, day to day life would make me think about it all the time. And I guess that's more of like what gender dysphoria is. I mean, that's something that you ask people what is gender dysphoria? What does it feel like? What is it really? What is it? When people say it, they just say it. They're like, "Oh, I'm feeling dysphoric today." It's like, okay, but what is it? What are the feelings? And I guess I finally figured out the way they are for me is that let's say here's a scenario. Let's say you're riding on the bus. You get on the bus and you see a cute girl. Your first thought isn't, oh, she's hot, I want to fuck her. Okay, that's not your first thought. Your first thought is, why can't I be her? And just that feeling makes you feel low inside. It makes you feel like depressed. You're like, oh, there's a good looking girl. Why can't I be her? Why? Why am I a guy? Why? You question it every day. It sets it off all the freaking time. There are times where I'm on the bus, it passes a dress shop, and I look at the dress shop, and I'm like, I wish I could wear those dresses. These are things that, again, I've always had. You can't control. You don't really have any say in it. You just like it. It's no different from you saying, "Hey, I like mac and cheese. I want to eat mac and cheese." You can't explain why you like it. I mean, you can explain what you like about it, but you can't explain why you like what you like about it. It just is. It's the same thing. If I put like 100 different foods in front of you, you're going to either like it or you're not going to like it. You can't explain to me, well, scientifically, my tongue is positioned a certain way that makes it why I don't like that food. I mean, that's the same thing with being transgender. Now, I didn't realize I was transgender until this year. And there were times in my past where, I wanted to like figure out what it is that I'm feeling. Because, I mean, I never told anybody. I was in therapy for other reasons, ADHD and all that stupid shit. But I never brought it up, because I always felt like this was such a very bad thing to feel, such a bad thing to want, such a wrong thing to want, that I knew that I was better off keeping it to myself. I don't know why I was able to make that correlation, and I'm glad I did, because when I eventually came out to people this year, they were shocked. There was even an instance where my family found articles of female clothing in my room. And this is back when I was 13. And they questioned me on it. They said, "Do you want to be a girl?" And my heart sank when they asked me that question. Because up until that point, I was the only one that knew what I wanted. I was the only one that felt this weird way. And to hear someone else say, or even ask that question, "Do you want to be a girl?" It was very scary. It was something that I immediately came up with an excuse. I'm like, "Oh, I'm just a horny teenager, I'm using that for jack off material." Like, I immediately came up with that as an answer, because I knew it was the better answer to give. Because what would happen if I said to my parents, "Yes, actually, I do want to be a girl"? Um, what would their reaction be? How would they handle it? I'm only 13. I'm not an adult. I can't live on my own. I can't afford to have my parents hate me. And that's all I knew then. All I knew then was that if I told anybody that I secretly wanted to be a girl, that I would be like ridiculed, I would be, thrown in a mental institution or something. Like I thought of it as a negative thing, and out of my own sanity and defense, I hid it my whole life. Well, up until this year. Leading up to when I eventually uh, came out, the months prior were very difficult months. I was very depressed. I was contemplating suicide like on a daily basis. It was getting worse and worse and worse. And all I knew is that these feelings that I had growing up, these feelings I had throughout my entire, teenage years, they kind of dissipated a bit when I got involved in a relationship. When I got involved in a relationship, it's like it didn't bother me as much for some reason. I don't know why. But it eventually came back full force. And it was just like everything was a constant reminder of it. Every night I'm going to bed like, why the fuck can't I be a girl? Doing this. And I'm 25 years old. Well, 24 actually. So I decided to finally do research. And this is something I still can't explain to myself why I never researched it in the past. I mean, I've had the internet, since the early 2000s. So why didn't I ever look it up? I don't know why. I don't know why I never bothered. I mean, of course, I think I've looked up the phrase "wishing to be a girl" or something, or I would even like question people, like just to see if other people felt the same way. I said, if you could be a girl, would you be a girl? And then they're all like, "No, why not?" And or they would give you the stupid answer of yes, so I could look at myself all the time. I seriously don't know like why people get off in that idea. Um, but it became clear at a young age that what I feel isn't normal. It became clear that, the people I surround myself with every day don't think the same way I do. It became clear that in just the way I live my life, the gender role that I've been forced to live just didn't fit me right. I was always made fun of by other guys for not being tough and manly. I was always made fun of for not being stronger or anything. When I go to gym class, and you had to share the same locker room. I mean, it was torture. It really was. And I always got along with girls better. I always felt like I connected with girls better. Not connected in a more like, oh, relationship sense, but more of general interests. I've always liked girlier chick flicks. Yeah, I like the occasional horror film and action film, but my brother and I have completely different tastes in movies. My mother and I actually like a lot of the same movies. Um, my taste in music, I mean, I've always been made fun of for my taste in music. So it's one of those things where I kind of suppressed the things I enjoyed. Like when the song "Call Me Maybe" came out. Yeah, I was one of the only people I know that liked that song. Everyone's like, "That's a gay song. That's stupid." Blah blah blah. It's like, no, actually, I like it. But yeah, it's weird. You start learning a lot more about yourself when you start questioning it. And I think what I was doing was I was just focusing on the wrong aspects. I'm transgender. I realized it this year. And part of what helped me realize that was researching it online, because I didn't know what the fuck it was. All I knew was it was just a consistent desire and very strong desire. I mean, something I can't hide it. I couldn't stop thinking about it. It would consume my everyday, with that thought. I'm in a class full of girls and stuff. And I'm like, why can't I be the girl? Or whenever you would hear a girl's name called and you wish it was your name. When people, whenever you had those little checkout boxes, like, fill in your gender, like I've always wanted to fill out female. Like I hated, filling out male. I mean, I always hated it. Which is probably why half my shit is registered under female. And I did those, like 10 years ago. Um, so it's just, that's really my issue in a nutshell. But when I finally realized I was trans was when I started looking up timelines, the transition timelines. When I saw somebody going from male to female, I immediately knew that's what I wanted. I immediately knew that I had to accomplish that at all costs, that was what I needed to live and survive. So I ordered HRT under, by unnecessary means, and I started taking it, and then eventually come out to people. So it wasn't done the best of ways, but everyone around me knows. There's a few people in my family that don't know, but I mean, everyone likes me now. I mean, everyone says I'm much more enjoyable to be around. I'm much nicer. I'm happier. Yeah, it hasn't been an easy road, so I do cry a lot. I get upset a lot because the transition is not easy. It really is tough. And, you start questioning everything you're doing. You start doubting what you're doing. You start thinking, oh shit, because you lose certain people and stuff. You start wishing you weren't trans and that you're like, oh, I can go back. I could just stop taking it and then just pretend for a longer period of time that you're a guy when you really aren't. So it's tough. And what makes it harder is society. Society just doesn't get it. They assume, what happens when you assume? You make an ass out of you and me. They assume that, trans people are really guys in a dress and that they have ulterior motives. No, it's not. It's not like that at all. I mean, especially for all the trans women I've met personally, they're very similar to myself. And that's one thing that also helps me make you realize you are who you are when you're able to share stories and actually share experiences that are very similar. Different circumstances, but basically the undertone is the same. So, that's what it's like. If you have any questions, drop a comment below. I could definitely make more videos that kind of custom tailor it to questions. But yeah, that's what gender dysphoria means to me. Is this extremely strong desire to be a girl, and I'm starting. My face lights up when someone refers to me as she in public. Like I love it more than anything. When people call me sir or he on the phone, I want to just fucking punch them, because it bothers me so much. But yeah, when my family starts calling me Catherine, which is the name I hope to go by, it really makes my day. It really makes me happy. And these are things that you just can't help. It is what it is. So take care, guys. Look out for future videos.